Chapter 21, October 15, 1963, late morning. Inside First Baptist, folks buzz, fuss, and share their theories of what will happen next. In no time, everyone agrees that someone planted over the garden with weed seed, though no one can say who did it or why. Then Reverend Walker steps up to the pulpit and tells us to bow our heads. While everyone else prays, I toss things over. At first, I'm burning up because the Reverend spoke his mind and near about got us slaughtered. But the longer I sit in my pew, the more tickled I am that our Reverend doesn't just think his ideas, he speaks them. He doesn't just speak his ideas, he lives them, even when he's scared inside. When the silent prayer is over, the Reverend calls on the Lord to see us through. We pray and chant and sing together so long, I reckon it's hours by the time the Reverend announces he's going to hold a meeting to prepare for any trouble that might come our way. Members of my brigade stay here, he says. Everyone else can go on home. Of course, there's one little problem with that. I can't go on home because Uncle Bump's there. Sure, Uncle Bump found work at General Merchandise Store in Frankendale. It's his job to mop the floors and hand out the government commodity, rice, beans, and of course cheese. But Uncle Bump only works 3 days a week, and today he's got off. If he sees me home early, he'll know I skipped out on school to go to the picking. So Cool Breeze, Delilah, and me sprawl out on the grass behind the church. After Delilah carries on more than an hour about how scared she still is, I decide to tell her in Cool Breeze's little secret. Want to know what Uncle Bump has to say when he hands out the food at the General Merchandise Store? Have a nice day, Cool Breeze guesses. Nope. What? Delilah asks. Cheese, if you please, I say. They both split a rib over that, and it's real good to hear them laugh because under their laughs I can tell they're worried up as me. All three of us know things aren't going to turn out good. The more I think on it, the more I've got the urge to jump. But of course I don't have my rope handy, so I just use an imaginary one. Mary, Mary, quite contrary, how does your garden grow? I said. Very funny, Delilah says. The right rhyme for the right time, I tell her. Then I go back to saying Mary, Mary all over again. While I jump, I wonder why all the jumping songs are about a girl named Mary, and why Delilah thinks that I can't see every 5 minutes she scoots an inch closer to Cool Breeze. By the time Delilah's almost snuggled up beside him, I've got a plan. I let go of my imaginary rope and fall to the ground. My stomach's rumbling, I say, breathing heavily from all that jumping. Same here, Cool Breeze says. He stands and fetches both our school bags out of the ditch. When he comes back, he sits down a whole foot away from Delilah, and I can't say I mind. Cool Breeze and me pull our lunch sacks out of our school bags. I've got a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but Ollie's got her peanuts. Delilah didn't bring a lunch because she didn't know what a long day was going to be, so I gave half my sandwich to her. While we eat, Cool Breeze keeps going over the garden problem like it's a math equation he can solve. Now, white folks always blaming us for their troubles. He cracks a peanut shell. Then something occurs to me, something I never thought of before. Uh-oh, I say. What? Cool Breeze and Delilah ask. In normal times, I wouldn't care about talking with my mouth full of food, but I need Cool Breeze to think I'm a real lady, so I take all the time before I swallow my sandwich down and lick my teeth clean before I share the scary idea. There's going to be a short run on vegetables at the corner store because up till now folks were waiting to get their stuff free from the garden. I hear Mr. Mudge's collards are rotting on the shelf. Now watch. He'll raise prices higher than a cat's back. I can tell Cool Breeze is impressed I thought of this because he purses his lips and says, Now ain't you a real economist? A real windbug is more like it, Delilah says. Then she laughs like she's kidding. But I know an insult when I hear one. And when someone insults you and pretends you're too dumb to know it, that's a double insult. Just before Delilah gets another chance to cozy up beside him, Cool Breeze bolts to his feet again. All the same, he says, I'm going down to the corner store to get some food before the short run. And when you know it, Delilah changes her mind about my theory. Good idea, she says. I'll come too. I've got to stop home for some money. Same here, I say. And I reckon right about now is when I'd be getting home from school anyway, so at long last it's okay to show my face. When I get into the yard, I hear Uncle Bump's harmonica ring out from the shed. I knock. Uncle Bump opens the rusty door. Guess what? I say. But Uncle Bump doesn't guess. He just says, listen to this. Then he blows a few raggedy chords and raises up his eyebrows. Good, real good, I say. And one thing's clear. Uncle Bump's been locked in his shed for hours. He hasn't heard a word about what's going on. Guess what? I say again. Don't know, he said, and steps out of the shed. Delilah told me all about the picking because she was there. Plus, I say, there's going to be a real short run on vegetables. Everyone says so. And I don't mean to fit, but I reckon I get a bit carried away with my theory because then I say, even the Reverend agrees. Well then, he says. He drops his harmonica into his right pocket, pulls out a quarter and 2 dimes out of his left. You best get over to the corner store and load up. He hands me the change. If Uncle Buck knew how much trouble our folks are in, he'd never let me cross to the other side of town. And even Delilah's mother won't let her go now. Of course, I'm not sure I should cross the tracks either, but something inside's telling me to stop being a scaredy cat, to be more like the Reverend. So after I set my school bag inside my house, I meet up with Cool Breeze out front. Then I tweet, click, click, and Flapjack jumps out of the watering can and scampers down the lane beside us. When we get to the corner store lot, I give my coins to Cool Breeze. Can't go in with Flapjack, I tell him, so get me one of Mr. Mudge's famous chocolate chip cookies, plus mustard and greens, radish, and make sure you get a button squash. What's the magic word? Cool Breeze asks and smiles. Those dimples do it every time. That tingly feeling buzzes through me. Please, I say real soft. I stroke under Flapjack's chin. He starts to purr, and I'm relieved he doesn't mind being in this lot after what just happened to him here. And when you know it, we're just minding our business when we see that a fat cat sugar prancing our way. I reckon Flapjack thinks Sugar's a real fancy lady or something, because as soon as she arrives, he follows her into the forest that runs between the corner store and Mr. Mudge's farm. Truth be told, I don't like playing with Worth. Human or animal is a smart idea. I tweet, click, click, but Flapjack doesn't come, so I head to the trees to fetch him myself. Seconds after I march into the woods, I hear Flapjack scurry up behind me. But the second I turn, my pulse jumps. That's because running after my cat and near out of breath is Honey Worth. And Honey doesn't want Flapjack. She wants me. Hey, she yells, you wait right there. Swimmy-handed, I gaze at the freckles on her chin and hurry my escape plans in my mind. I could run, lie my way out of this mess, or show Honey respect and make myself sick. Raise your head, she says. I do as she tells me. I look into her searing blue eyes. Honey scoops her cat from the ground, jets her folded neck across her kitty's back. You and me both know your brother's dead and gone because he wrecked my brother's leg, she says breathless, her eyes, blue eyes, icy ponds. My tongue hangs dry in my mouth. I want to throw a punch right into her stomach and run, but inside my head, a whisper tells me what to do instead. I'm real sorry for what happened to your brother, I say. I feel queasy as each word leaves my lips, and I hate myself when I say can't apologize enough. Now, I don't suppose you was at the garden picking down at Cuckoo today because you're a good girl and went to school, right? Yes, ma'am, I say. My words are clouds, not really there. Well, Sugar and me went to the picking party down Magnolia Row this morning, and you must have heard what happened, the butterbean fiasco and all. I watch Honey's lips. I expect them to move in tired patterns of hate, but they do something else instead. After the picking, there was a meeting at my house, she says. My daddy and his friend, Mr. Tate, said they didn't take care of the garden because Mr. Mudge hired your uncle and some other hands to do it himself. And Honey's not through. My mama said your uncle's mad at all of us white folk because your brother disappeared in the bayou. That's why your uncle planted over our garden with butterbeans. My mama says your uncle wrecked out our garden to get revenge. The words, they double in my mind. They skip over each other, double Dutch. Butterbean, uncle, fiasco. I don't know what a fiasco is, but I know it doesn't sound good. And one thing's certain. All this hate, I've been warned. It's like Honey couldn't help herself. Some goodness seeped out. They're going to get him, she says. Y'all better run. Run I do. I've got no time to tell Cool Breeze where I'm going. I just flex my toes to keep my sneakers on my feet and race through the woods. Flapjack dashes beside me. I shove the low branches out of the way. Sticks scrape my shins as I tear past elm, oak, pine, and hickory. Then a strange light stops me cold. It's silver, sun gleaming on silver. The silver moves. I see it's a shovel. From way back here, through the leaves and branches, I make out a man in an overcoat. It scares me to see anyone at all, though, because Elias and me have crossed through this forest loads of time, and we've never run into a soul. The man's back's to me. He's digging a ditch. He throws something in it. And I see Flapjack. He's right next to the man. He claws the trunk of an old oak. There's an enormous bird's nest up on the branch. This is no time for lunch, Flapjack. I want to yell, but I don't have to. Scram! The man screams at my cat. He's madder than a wet hen. I take off running through the forest. My hungry cat races up beside me. Together we tear across the pumpkin patch, through rows of sunflowers, and across the tracks. By the time we turn onto Cuckoo Lane, my breath scrapes inside my lungs. I ram open the door to Uncle Bump's shed, but the shed's empty, so I race across the yard of my house. And I can't believe it. There he sits at the kitchen table, dealing a game of solitaire like it's an ordinary day. I gather up his cards. Hey, put my game back, he says. Something about butterbeans, I tell him. I'm not thinking about my words, choosing the ones that sound best. Hide, I yell. I yank his arm with both my hands, try to pull him up. What's gotten into you? Where's the best vegetables? Honeyworth, they had a meeting. Come on. Tears collect in the corner of my mouth. They're coming to get you, Honey said. Uncle Bump stares at me like I'm speaking Latin. They say you ruined the garden. His eyes narrow. That don't make sense. It's gotta make sense, I pace across the kitchen. You gotta go somewhere. Uncle Bump shakes his head no. Just then Mama bursts through the door. Thank goodness. Mama won't let Uncle Bump stay home sitting on a pile of danger. What are you doing here, Bump? She screams. She throws her pocketbook on the table and hits Uncle Bump on the back with both hands. Ain't you heard what they saying about you? About us? Let's go. He stands and nods like he's working out a problem. I'm not running on account of some words from a little white girl, he says. Then his backside hits the seat again and sticks there, batter on the griddle. I ain't a coward, he says. Course you ain't a coward, Bump, but last I checked you wasn't no idiot neither, Mama shrieks. Don't you remember what happened to? Mama looks at me, changes her mind about something. Then she glares at Uncle Bump. If my husband could see you sitting at this table waiting to see yourself killed, he'd kill you himself. Her eyes widen. You promised, Braeburn, you'd watch over us. Uncle Bump yanks his harmonica out of his pocket and starts to blow. Next thing I know, Mama storms out the side door. So here I sit at the table trying to reason, but Uncle Bump won't have any part of my logic. He's lost in his harmonica tune. When he plays, his eyes half closed, but in the open parts I see a glint I've never seen before. The glint in his eyes is like glass that glitters on the side of the road. You expect it to be clear from a bottle of soda, but you bend down to pick it up and it's not. It's blue or green. You wonder where it came from. A white lady's shattered jewelry box, a broken bottle from a fight down in the juke joint. Every shard of glass is small as a thumbnail, but in the burst of color, you know there's a whole story waiting to get told. Now, I can't go saying what the story inside my uncle is, but I can say this. It's new and it's ugly and it's strange. And I wish I never saw that glint in his eyes at all. Uncle Bump never does budge from his seat before Mama returns with Reverend Walker at her side. Addie Ann, you come with me, she says. She grabs my hand and pulls me to the kitchen out the side door. Mama and me hunker down on the steps only seconds before she starts to bawl. They have it in for us, Pickett, she cries. By the time Reverend Walker creaks open the side door, I reckon Mama's right out of tears. I know it's not easy, the Reverend tells us, but I know you'll both agree. There comes a time for a man when his dignity's worth more than his life. He rubs his thumb across his beard. This is Bump's time. Chapter 22, October 15, 1963, late afternoon. When the Reverend goes back inside our house, I try to make Mama feel better. After a couple days, the sheriff will forget all about the garden, I say. Mama just sits there on the side steps and looks at me like I'm too innocent for this world. Then she reaches over and sets a strand of my hair behind my ear. That man won't forget, but maybe the Reverend will talk some sense into your uncle. Bump's got to leave the house before the bark of a dog cuts off our words. Mama and me stare at each other, too terrified to move. The Reverend appears at the side door again. You'd best get out of here, he says. Mama grabs onto the rails, pulls herself upright. Her knees tremble, and I can't see she's holding that rail so she won't collapse. We're not leaving, Bump, she cries. Then she shouts through the side door into the house. Come on, Bump, time to go. But I don't hear Uncle Bump push back his chair. I don't hear his angry steps as he walks outside to Mama and me. Now Mama bends down beside me so we're eyeball to eyeball. Then she squeezes my arm like she's trying to break it. Don't you move, she tells me. Next she lets go my arm and flies past the Reverend into the house. The Reverend follows. Sitting out here on the side steps alone, I don't know what else to do but try to listen for my brother. I shut my eyes tight and wait for the yellow and orange glitter. But behind my eyes, it's nothing but black. I try to feel the rush of water in my belly crashing over the rocks in the riverbed, but all I feel is sick. Come on, I just say to myself, come on. I need to hear from Elias more than ever. I wait for my breath to get steady and even, but the longer I wait, or shorter it gets, so it almost sounds like the pitter-patter of flapjacks scurrying down the path. No matter how hard I listen, all I hear is that barking dog getting closer and closer and folks yelling inside the house. It seems even the Reverend doesn't know if the good Lord can deliver us through because I hear him shout to Mama, get Elmira, she'll help. But Mama shrieks, I'm not leaving. Then I hear Uncle Bump. He yells so loud, it scares the bejesus out of me. I told you, Maisie, I'm not running. You're her mama. Get her out of here right now. Mama crashes through the screen door, face puffed, holding back an expression of anger and tears. She grabs my hand, yanks me down the side steps. I tweet, click, click, Flapjack hurries to meet us. Just as we race round to the front of the house, we hear the barking hound again. That dog's pulling the sheriff and his gang of men down the lane straight to us. I'm wild with fright, but Mom is wilder. Not again, she shouts as we run down the lane. Please, not again. By the time we reach Elmira's place, Mama's babbling nonsense. I pound on Elmira's front door. The second she opens it, Mama falls into her arms. Lord have mercy, Elmira says. Elmira's house is small as a sewing thimble. 2 rooms, candles, and potted plants everywhere. Hardly space to move. Elmira and me drag Mama through the kitchen to the bedroom and set her on the bed. Then I tell Elmira all about how Uncle Bump's getting blamed for the butterbean fiasco, how he won't leave our house, how the sheriff and his men are at our door, how we're all praying she'll work magic. All the while, Mama's blubbering, and the only thing Elmira said is, mercy, mercy. Then Mama shrieks, I gotta help him. She tries to jump out of her bed, but she doesn't get far, because Elmira and me pounce on her. Elmira sits right on Mama's legs and pins Mom to the bed with her hefty bottom. We'll help Uncle Bump, I tell Mama. You stay right here. While I talk, Elmira reaches round to the windowsill, pulls off a jar of oil. You want to help Bump? Elmira asks. Mama nods. Then do as I say. She opens the jar of oil and holds it under Mama's nose. Sniff. Somehow the scent of the oil makes Mama's body relax into the bed. Soon Mama looks like she'd rather rest than run. That's when Elmira stands up, and I touch Mama's legs to make sure they're not broken. Thank goodness they feel like they're holding together fine. Next, Elmira holds out a teaspoon of medicine. Swallow, she tells Mama. After Mama swallows, Elmira whispers, she'll be sleeping in no time. Then she plucks out a bunch of grass growing in a box on her window, wraps the grass in a ball around her finger, then presses it to the soles of Mama's feet. By the time Elmira finishes her footwork, Mama's eyes flutter. I wipe the hair off Mama's forehead and tuck it behind her ear. I love you, Mama, I whisper. My words seem to help Mama's eyes close all the way. She'll come through, Elmira tells me. Of course, the second I hear Mama will be okay, the rest of the nightmare hurtles to the front of my mind. When I talk, my voice is a thin line. What can you do for Uncle Bump? A spell? Something? Well, I'm sure I can, Miss Elmira says. And I'm sure she can too. That's because Elmira was born gifted. For the past 23 years, she spent her days cooking in Old Man Adams' kitchen, but nights she came back to the Negro side and worked as the hoodoo doctor, curing ladies of the flu by sprinkling elderberry on their foreheads, helping gentlemen find love by fixing violets in their shoes. Elmira waddles past me in the kitchen to find her mojo bag and roots. Sit here, she says, and pats an empty seat at her rickety kitchen table. Besides the kitchen table sits the Dutch oven she's got from Old Man Adams. And believe me, with Elmira's spacious bottom and an enormous bosom plus a new oven, there's not much room left to move. But I squeeze into the seat and watch Elmira search through her cluttered cupboards for the right materials to cast a spell. There's her mojo bag, the candles, the herbs, a cat o' nine tails, and some colored stones. Where's my lavender? Lavender, Elmira mutters. She fumbles through her materials. For all she's trying to help my uncle, this magic's taking far too long, and I know I can't wait, so I shut my eyes and whisper, where to? This time I don't wait for the orange and yellow glitter to come to me. I go after it. I call the crowbar gleaming in the sunshine right into my mind, and the river. I don't hope it chooses to meander my way. I imagine that river and dive right in. Even though I don't know how to swim, I'm not pulled under. I float, I float. My back goes against the water. I blow my breath into the open sky. Gooseflesh splashes over me. I hear a voice. It's soft, but it's clear. Follow me. I open my eyes and trail the whisper to the door. Where are you going? Elmira asks. To help, I tell her, even though I'm not sure how. But Elmira nods like she understands. And I chase my brother's voice out her front door into the dusty sky. Flapjack darts out from beneath a bush. Together we bolt round the bend and down the lane.